that day.
Hey Jeff, could you do prayer for us?
Yeah, go over there maybe and say it.
We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. I've asked Jim Day to lead us in pledge, and Jeff Sauer's going to have prayer afterwards.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father who art in heaven, we come before you now, Father, thank you for this day. We thank you for our health. Thank you for our homes, our families, and friends, and all the many blessings that you've given us. We thank you for the recent rain that you sent our way. We ask you please send some more rain and alleviate the hot weather so that the citizens of our community might do well under your providence. We ask you please be with us in this meeting. Guide our thoughts, guide our words, so that we might do what's best for our community and say things that are in accordance with thy will. We ask you please be with our leaders on the national and on the local scene. Please guide them to enact laws which are in accordance with thy will, to do away with laws that are against thy will. Please be with the sick, especially those of our friends and family. Restore them to a normal portion of health, that be thy will. Forgive us for sins, and all this we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. First, I would like to have our secretary call the roll for a plan commission, and I want to welcome Danielle Walker. I didn't call you Hal. Danielle Walker, she is currently our new extension agent for the county, and this was her first day on the job. So I told her this would be baptism by fire. So if this time I'd like to turn it over to the secretary to call roll.
Thank you. I don't have the roll sheet handy, but I do know that I received an email from Scott Maudlin and a telephone call from Shauna. Both are going to be absent tonight. Shauna had mandatory walk. I think it was weather related for her barns that interfered with the meeting. I have not heard from Adam, but otherwise I think we can agree. Looks like we've got Adam Ford is absent, Scott Maudlin is absent, and Shauna is absent. I guess no one.
I see that as being correct.
I apologize, but I don't have an updated sheet on it to get. Danielle Walker, 9th.
On behalf of the board, I would like to welcome everyone on the July the 2nd meeting date of the Washington County Plan Commission. Everyone who appears before the Plan Commission is entitled to a legal right of due process. Therefore, everyone present who wants to will be given a chance to speak. We ask that when you are called upon to speak, that you will state your name and address for the record. Moving along to minutes.
Yes, I have circulated a copy of the minutes, and I went around June 27th, obviously Danielle did not get those. I have not received any comments, so I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes. I'll make the motion.
Second.
Lane Fryberger has made the motion, been seconded by Jeff Souter. So for discussion. Seeing none, we'll take it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Motion carried.
I'll circulate those for signature.
Okay. Old business. Committee reports. Subdivision. Jeff, we doing anything else?
No.
Land use, Carrie.
I haven't had an opportunity to since the last meeting to do the edits that we discussed based on, basically, the last meeting, one of the problems was we have addresses, but they're not always confirmed residences. So basically, we're going to do some data cleanup. And we haven't, I've got the girl trained on how to do that, but we haven't gotten far enough to actually get any of that proofing done. I did go ahead and pull in the aerial tonight if there was a question, that way you guys could see it. And right now, I left it up because we had the committee meeting right before. Pretty much, I think everybody had seen it, but just that you know can you see the screen well enough? Okay, so the green arrow is 3/4 mile around schools. The red circle is a mile around schools. The blue triangles are existing confined feeding operations that at one point or another had a permit. One of the decisions made tonight was to reduce from a mile to 3/4 mile based on what's already there and what seems to be functioning. So I just left it up. It's probably the only significant change since 2 weeks ago, I think, when we were here. But if there's something y'all want to see, I'm more than happy to work on the data while you guys finish up. But
That's not all with confined feeding operations, though, is it?
no, it would just be those that have had a permit at some point or another since I think like it's probably current, like 6 or 8 months ago. And I haven't proved it either because I pulled it off of their website, and well, they are government workers, so
What do
it
you
needs
think,
proof.
Danielle?
I think there's probably somewhere in the low 40s to take everything we've got, stuff that's coming on.
We do have your data plotted on this same one, the map that you gave me.
It is plotted.
Because Barbas has 6 units. Some of them know about, some of them not even know. It's funny, because I went and had a meeting with the desk, and there's one, but anyway, I think, I'll get with you, and maybe we'll try to get it fine-tuned of what's out there, what I know is coming.
Okay.
Um,
If you could do the same sort of thing like you did last time, it worked out great. He had provided a map of just take it in a road map and highlighted where farms were that he knew for me to come in and pull the data. Just emailed it to me, and that way, that's what I was talking about the last time.
Very well, the operations he's talking about could be underneath that 30,000 that are not permitted.
They were.
Most of them still will be.
Yeah, they were the ones on Jones' map.
Because that's the only permitted farm.
yeah.
Correct.
That's the only one that fits the parameters of the zone.
I know, Chris Cruz put him on there. Richard Keltner, West Washington School, he thought that was,
We can get together.
yeah.
Is there anything, since I was here last time, that, is there something somebody's dying to see? Are we good?
Oh, I missed the 750 setback. I had to leave the meeting. Did you have that where you, well, the difference between 400 and 700?
Yeah, it'll take me just a second to move all the layers around, so if you guys kind of want to go on, and I'll get them set up, and
Okay.
I'll raise my hand when I'm done.
All right, I'm going to go ahead with, it's actually new business in Washington. Anyway, I got a letter from the Department of Environmental Management. It deals with the hub farm of Barbas. Basically, it is a letter that they have gone ahead and given approval for their operation that's going in. The cover letter that said if you want to appeal the process, give the letter what you need to do. I've also got they had an MPDS permit permit that has been identified and their construction, allow the construction to be done. And it was sent to us as a planning commission to know that they are permitted on that verification. We talked to Tom Cyphers a little bit. We're going to be getting some documents that need to be filed in the minutes and stuff. Travis, my question to you, do we have anything to facilitate that?
We don't need no facility, I'm not really sure.
Couldn't file.
Oh, you have file cabinets.
Yes, I am.
I was really trying to be really smooth.
Yes, we have plenty of file cabinets.
All right, we'll have some documents. We'll have some documents that will need to be filed and that's so anyway, that did come. Yes, Jeff.
Probably they need to be filed in a section, township, and range format so that wherever that location is, you can always go to that one particular document that applies to that particular location.
Okay. Are you offering your assistance in that system?
And that, I was just making that mention for a way, unless you want to attach them to the minutes of each meeting, and then there'd be no way to retrieve those documents whenever you need to.
That is a problem, you know, as we go along with minutes and filing, you know, with like months or stuff like that, there needs to be a process of filing. And because you know as well as I do, Tom, is we've been trying to pick, you know, information up. A lot of times we end up having to go back to minutes for things that's been done. That's a very cumbersome way to do it.
I think the minutes, we're just going to actually file those in a separate minute, like a three-ring binder. It's just got the minutes by year or whatever.
Yeah.
Years of fit. Then when it comes to other things like that, I wasn't joking. If I were instructed to file something and then, you know, like pursuant to range, the section, and all that, I would need your assistance to do that.
Yes, I can help.
All right. We'll try to get some filing system together to work, not be cumbersome. Because realistically, we discussed this and we know that there's a lot of activity that's going on and coming on in the forefront. So we might as well get ourselves prepared to handle some paper. How we doing, Carrie?
Great. Hang on, I'm working on it. I moved my data around, otherwise I'd have been able just to pull up what was there last time, so let's see if we can.
Yes.
Would it be better to file them just by project name? Think that would be less confusing?
That might be a start. We get into,
What is the most frequent form inquiries here?
What'd you say, Lon?
What is the most frequent form an inquiry would appear in? You know, when somebody's approaching us, or would they be talking about an address? Would they be talking about? I'm just asking a general question.
Yeah. Just way maybe best. I don't, you know.
Engineers tend to file like client names when they keep a file system. Lars Trueblood was an engineer and he did it by client name. Names change over time, whereas a geographic location never changes. And so if you do it by section number 6 in Hope Township or whatever like that, that always stays section 6. It's been that way for 210 years, and it's going to keep on being section 6 in Hope Township. So that's a 1 square mile. Anything that's being applied in that 1 square mile, if there's one farm, you can always if a person comes in and says, well, I want to check on things of the Huff Farm, thing to do is say, you'll need to show me on a map where it is. When they say, it is right here. Then you go to the filing system, section 6, Polk Township. Here's all those documents. Because if you do it by names, I've seen names on different farms change over time. Well, it used to be this, and then they got it from here, and then they got it from these people. If you do it by geographic location, that doesn't change.
Sounds like the best way to do it.
Yes, and just in this reference letter in there, this is the way they've got it described. MPDS CFO new source is the name. General permit construction, section 16, T 2N R 2 East.
That would never change. 1622.
Evidently, it doesn't like me today.
All right, going on with, in that, Kerry, you know, we just had this meeting in there. You know, we had some discussion and stuff. You know, I don't know where we go at as far as our full information. I don't know how much other stuff as far as new business. Should we kind of talk about, you know, some of this? You know, we talked about this reciprocal. Should we bring it up as a discussion issue to the Planning Commission now?
Well, the only thing I would say is that to discuss it, I mean, really, you're the only, I mean, you two are the only two that weren't here for discussion, right?
Right.
And can I mean, I guess I would say that, yeah, if you have a discussion now, but I would strongly encourage you to wait a month before you make the decision.
Well, I agree, but I think the information needs to be circulated.
Okay, so right now the issue is that there is a distance that farms must be CFO CAFO, which is defined currently as, you have to run the numbers, but essentially 15,000 turkeys. It'd be like 3,000 sheep, 150 horses, 3,000 swine weighing less than 55 pounds. We've dialed down the numbers to catch the farms that are unpermitted for the state. So these are the farms we're talking about. It's not just state permitted farms. It's cranked down to catch the 2 turkey barn, 2 chicken barn, whatever turkeys right
So
now.
you're saying, you're losing me, so we came up with new minimums?
Yes.
Yes.
15,000 per turkey.
Yeah, and then scale the other numbers, the other species off of that. I just want to make sure that we all were talking apples to apples before we have the reciprocal discussion. Currently, the way we have it written is that one of those farms cannot be located within 400 feet of a home unless it is their own home or they own it. Like they either have to live there or they have to own it in order to be within 400 feet of the buildings. Currently, the way that it's written, we have that the standard they have to be 400 feet from the nearest house, public use facility, or church, and we have that the standard applies reciprocally. So if there's an existing farm, then a house, public use facility, or church can't locate within 400 feet of the farm. That's what that reciprocal distance is. We also have them sign a notice of agricultural activity, which basically says, you know, anytime a deed changes in the ag zone, they would sign a little piece of paper that says, yes, we understand we're in ag. We understand that agricultural type things happen in ag. The only thing is even though they sign that, it does not take away their rights to file suit later. So one of the things that agriculture is strongly in favor of is the concept of reciprocal distances, meaning, just like I said, you can't encroach on them and then be mad later that they exist. Max has a very good point about the fact that if you do that on a, what would you say, 600 feet chicken barn? Is that right? Or turkey barn? If it's a 600 feet barn, then every 72 feet is an acre. And so, like if you go this way, so you've got 600 feet, every 72 feet is an acre. So if you say that the house has to be 400 feet away from a farm, and they're only 200 feet off the road, then, Max in his scenario would lose almost 3 acres of property and not be able to build on it because of that reciprocal distance. So what we would like for the commission to do, honestly, as a committee, we feel like that's too big of a decision to make in the committee. Next month, we would like for the board to vote on whether or not to leave in or take out the reciprocal distance in the language of the code.
One suggestion that we
Did I-
had.
was I-
of course,
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to make sure that.
One suggestion we had, of course, in taking a look at confined feeding operations right now, and what's currently out there. Right now, I think 100 feet is what we see as a norm
From the road.
for a minute from the road. And that comes from the center. In Mac's situation scenario, to me, the 100 feet is just the bare minimum. To bring a semi, turnaround, feed, loading and that type of stuff. And the operation is basically pretty much right there on the road. It's gravel from the ditch all the way to the barn. Suggestion was to make that 200 feet. So that would actually move the barn from that road frontage back. It won't help as far as that setback language for the reciprocal to the sides that it would for the front on the road. It would help.
Yeah, we had offered and it didn't, currently we did add the fact that a farm would have to be 200 feet off the road. And I had presented it as a compromise that if the farm bought half of the reciprocal distance, would that make it okay? You see what I mean? Rather than having to so if the farm was 100 feet off the road and a person wanted to build a house, then they would have to be at least 300 feet off the road. You understand now? Where if the farm had to be 200 feet, then the house only had to be 200 feet.
Is the house across the road? Or?
Yeah.
If it would be in this scenario.
Okay, there's a key piece of information I need to visualize this.
Yeah, sorry. So that was one of the, and it may not be enough of a compromise, but that's regardless of whether you leave in or take out the reciprocal distance, the committee felt like that the farm should be at least 200 feet off the road to provide adequate access. So that's not going anywhere. But we also thought that was kind of a nice, if you go half, we'll go half to the reciprocal concept. And like I said, I don't know if that's enough, but that was. Does that make sense, John?
Yes.
Travis, you got any thoughts on that? Okay.
Well, I talked to Jay Hutchins far west as far as the impact of the impact on the poultry operation. And he didn't seem to think that having someone that close impacts the growing of poultry. John was really adamant about that too. I don't think he back what she was saying. That it's a must that you the house has to be so far away from the road that it disrupt operation. But I want to get his feel on having something close to the road effects.
Okay.
If I may,
Yeah.
the difference between those two opinions, I think they're both spot on for where they're coming from. Jay has an entire company behind him to fight it if that neighbor's mad, and Shauna's got her and her husband and kids. So that's why I think Jay would see it very differently, because if the neighbor that lived 310 feet away fought, Far Best goes after them. If the neighbor fights an individual. And that's why it's so hard, because you can't, and that, we had this discussion a little bit about the difference between, making a living and the corporate concept. You've got the hardest thing about this is figuring out how to protect the residences without eliminating the ability to keep young farmers in your community. Like, you don't want to stop that, but you can't let corporations run rampant trying to keep them. So that's the delicate balance there. That's why I want to bring out no, I doubt it would matter to Harvest. I mean, and that's it, because they just have more resources. I don't think that's a bad thing, they just have more resources.
Is one of the issues that you were asking about, does it adversely impact the livestock?
Yeah, the livestock. That was what he said, that, Shauna thought that certain sounds, she was concerned that somebody was too close and make the radio too loud or what have you, that it would spook the turkeys.
Yeah, I doubt that. I would agree with Jay on that front. But in terms of nuisance filing, I don't want to say it's just a lawsuit, but neighbor against neighbor, I think it's a lot more likely to be a problem for an individual owner than a corporation.
In my experience, being with the state pork producers, and in dealing with that particular reason, I am vocal as far as the reciprocal setbacks, is that I saw a lot of operations that were put in that, and then there was encroachment by the houses, closer and closer. The farm was originally set up with the setbacks, at a certain distance. But in the years in there, the encroachment come in and basically squeezed the farm, so he couldn't do anything as far as expansion or other things that he could do within that. Understanding that we're talking about an agricultural district where we have classified agriculture is allowed, and we understand that's a viable industry in this. But I have seen it, where it boxes it in. So that's the reason that's my argument for reciprocal. If that lane and that distance is a good thing, this direction, then from that direction back to the farm is equally as important for different reasons, but equally as important.
Sorry.
There's really two good.
Yeah, honestly, Max, I have made David's argument so much, but I would have to say, Max makes a really good argument, especially when he drew the diagram of his particular property. So, from my point of view, I'm glad I just get to write it, because I think Max did a really good job presenting it. So.
Okay, I think this was something for the group to digest, before the next meeting and stuff, and think about this, and also think about distances, reciprocals, equality, as far as we look at that, as far as putting this language.
Is there many rulings on where the farmers have lost, under these lawsuits that happen in Indiana?
Right now, the main nuisance suits that have gone, that haven't, usually they settle because there hasn't been, it's been small, it's been town attorneys, it hasn't been, but in terms of, the ones that are filed right now are filed from a group called Spears and Middleton. One's out of Savannah, Georgia, and I don't even know where the other one's out of. But essentially, they just go around and drum up business, and once they don't get paid, then you get paid kind of attorneys, and they're really going the distance. 4 of the ones I'm working on, they've been in litigation for the last 2.5 years. So, right, so the answer is, All the ones prior that I know of have settled. It was some combination of, mixed results. But in terms of whether a judge has ever made a decision, I don't know of any in Indiana. That doesn't mean it hasn't happened. The other thing I would say with the nuisance suits, it's not just the lawsuit. I mean, it's the constant, I've got in Henry County right now, every time they haul the entire town, calls in turn to IDEM. So IDEM gets 300 calls every time they haul manure. They videotape, they complain, they go to every commissioner's meeting. So it's not just the damage to a farm owner isn't strictly a lawsuit. It's degradation of reputation from people complaining. You see what I mean? It's not just, to me, not as your zoning code writer, but as somebody that has done this for a long time, the threat isn't the lawsuit. The threat is the long-term harassment to the farm for just trying to continue what they're doing. But I suppose if I were on the other side, they would say the long-term problem is the farm exists and we don't want it there. So, there's...
That's kind of why it's important that when the land use planning went through, that's what, that was to protect the community from the chicken houses. Now, I'm on the Farm Bureau board. I'm arguing this in a way that I want to go ahead and show that, I was there when Shauna went through the thing with the commissioners, the flaming chickens and all of that kind of stuff. If the land use planning goes through like this and it's more pro-chicken house, I don't want to have the community feel that they've been betrayed. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, and we're pretty feisty too. I can see 300 calls going in and all that kind of stuff. I can see if you piss people off and you do something that they think is behind their back.
The only thing I would, and I wasn't there during that.
No, and you're fine. But
yeah, they were, right?
They were. Yeah.
One of the things from my standpoint that I would say, if you were, Jill off the street who came in and said that, I would say to you beforehand, they could go anywhere. You had zero protection.
Right.
That's my knee jerk. That's the answer.
Right.
So.
But part of it is they know that I've seen this too. Mm-hmm. This is me, Rhonda Green, saying this to you in my background and having watched all of this for years. Mm-hmm. I'm just be very cautious.
Do you not see the equality on both entities, on both parts of reciprocals, and not knowing which one is confined feeding for the residents? And don't you see that the distance is not an equal responsibility on both A and B?
Doesn't matter if I see it or not. Will you be able to explain it to the public well enough that they'll see it?
Well, my argument is, if it's as important for A, it's as equally as important it is for B.
Well, sure. But the thing of it is, we got it through because we were afraid of the chicken house.
Right.
You've got to keep in mind, I don't want you to go back to that either. Because either way, the fear either way and the abuse either way is not functional within the community. You've got to be able to go ahead and say, look, okay, yes, we did get land use planning in through this. And you've got to keep that in mind. And I know you're working real hard to squeeze all these, and because from a farm point of view, and in a way you're trying to, promote and bring businesses in. And I understand that. But if you make it more complicated, if you just keep it simple as possible, so that, the danger with points would be that it's a continuing process. You see what I'm saying? It's not cut and dry. It's not, Travis goes out, sees it, 750 feet or 400 feet, there you go. With the point system, You know, you've got to be careful, it's like, well, and you pass that, you know, the trees have to be there and all of that kind of stuff. But make it as simple as possible, okay? With reciprocal setback, if you know, there's that danger there. In that, I mean, you see what I'm saying? So be
Yeah.
very careful.
And hopefully, while we make our decisions, we take in some of the history and the knowledge that we know
Right.
from the past and apply it, you know, for this particular process that is very new
Right.
to this county. And that's the reason I bring this emphasis of this reciprocal setback. Seems to be a trend to put in place to try to alleviate some of the frictionalism in between, you know,
Right.
agriculture and the residents. That's the reason I bring that is, because I've seen that as a mechanism to take the electricity out of that argument.
Okay, because that's the thing. By saying, you know, stuff like this about, you know, home ownership and all of that kind of stuff, it's not that I'm particularly on that side or anything similar to that nature. It's that if the public does blow up on the young farmer, you know, that's where the damage is done. That's where the damage has been done all along with the chicken houses. I mean, confined feeding, they were the evil ones. Okay? So really, you know, my personal belief would be own the setback. Have it as a unit. Own the setback, whatever the setback is. But that's my personal thing. Okay? But, you know, make it as simple as possible, because there's a good chance that you will have blowback, and it'll be on the young farmers. It'll be back on the chicken houses again.
Yeah, you know, and this whole thing is that, you know, as we developed in there, and I'm at liberty of my own opinion, not so much in the, we're wanting proper site placement.
Right.
You know, that is our goal and our intention. It's not to squash an industry or enhance another one. You know, it's for us to actually view, and what we haven't had right now is to look at the location and verify and make decisions on if this is a proper place to put a building. And if it's not, let's move and find the proper site location. That's the reason we put in parameters such as population densities. You know,
Right.
whenever there's a higher population density, the setback gets larger. Which, in process, if it's dense and if the setbacks get larger, it's going to be harder for a confined feeding operation to locate into that area and meet those parameters. But what we're saying, you know, as people or the population gets tighter, that might not be the best place for you to put a confined feeding.
Right.
So maybe look for something else. You know, and the thing about it is, a lot of our problems that and not all of them, but several of them, have become is that we don't have, you know, parameters.
Right.
You know, because we hit underneath that IDM number, so there's not this permit process, there's not this oversight process, and hopefully what we're addressing with the numbers will kind of take into that. So, yeah, this is not a perfect science by far, but I think that as we look at those operations and as we look at these maps, you know, and as we see visually out there, we see out there that what we responded to is that maybe 100 feet setback from a road distance, maybe not far enough, you know, so that if we make it further back there, then it will help with that setback from that residence also, and probably help us with another problem and issue.
Well, you look
Yeah.
at your location for your farm. You got like 350 foot from the road. 400 foot setback wouldn't really affect the neighbor. He's gonna be 50 foot off the road anyway. So you're not really affecting the guy next to you. I mean, you found a good site location, you're sitting on enough ground. You didn't come in and try to buy 10 acres in the middle of somebody and then start rooting them out to the side. They can't do what they want to do with their ground, and this guy can't do what he wants to do now because I've moved in on you. And you're not forcing anybody across the road to do the little flag homestead sites where they have to be 300 foot off the road and start killing more farm ground than you really want. I mean, your site location is like an ideal situation. But I mean, the ones that are 100 foot off the road or even 200 foot off the road, when you start forcing people who do have a limited amount of land and resources to have to start cutting into what farm ground they would have maybe just stayed with their house and their yard 100 feet off the road and let the field stay where it's at, but instead they have to buy 10 acres and chop up more ground. I'm afraid you're reciprocal with letting them be too close to the road. It's going to cause more farm ground loss than
It
not.
might be, because I've seen it happen in Putnam County. They put a 40-acre minimum, to try to alleviate the problem, and it actually works in the opposite for them. So, no point taking there, Max. I mean, we have good intentions as far as what we think maybe this time, it might actually work in the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, because, if you squeeze somebody into it, you're just the right size. Well, the setbacks went from what, 100 to 400 feet?
On the states.
On the state.
side.
Yeah.
So, I mean, make it large. I mean, we don't have to turn this into a poultry county. It already is a poultry county. We may be at our limit. We may be, full. You know what I'm saying?
At some point in time, the resources and the roads are only going to hold so many poultry out there.
Right.
I have worried about how much roads handle all these summers. Because it takes a toll.
I can't get you the road wear number, but I can get you fairly easily the number of, we can do quick math that says if there's X number of swine, X number of poultry, based on industry averages, and I can come up with, based on agricultural census, to say you have X number of tillable acres available in the county, and your current animal capacities require annually this many acres. Therefore, the animals are utilizing 15% of the available acres in your county. That number is easy to come up with if that's something you want to see. It doesn't take into account the tolling of roads. It would give you usually, now not in all southern counties, but usually you're shocked at how low the percentage of land is actually being utilized for manure replacement. Is usually how that works out.
I know that was an argument with IDM with DuBois County.
DuBois, that's why I said usually, because DuBois County is one that.
Into that parameter in there, that was one of those real red points with IDM, because there was so much livestock production there, but on top of there was so much inorganic fertilizer use in that for the amount of tillable ground that they needed to try to get control.
That's exactly who I was thinking of when I said
Yeah, and I saw that argument. They were number one as far as the amount of manure produced per tillable acre, and then they were number 3 in the amount of fertilizer, inorganic fertilizer per tillable acre too. So if you that's the reason the hills are real green.
Yeah.
I'm just going to ask a question here. Should we be looking at the setback distances differently, or have it addressed separately from when a barn is on one side of the road and somebody wants to build on that same side of the road? You've got your 400-foot setback distances. However, if you've got a county road or a state road or whatever running in front of the barn and somebody is building on the other side of the road, should that be addressed differently than than a fixed setback number. I'm just throwing this out because I'm hearing this bouncing back and forth. Should it simply be addressed differently than a fixed setback number? Because road access is very important to many people, and the amount of money it costs to place a home site 300 feet back from a road compared if the CFO is 100 feet on one side. The financial consequences of building a home 300 feet back are significant. Should we be looking at this separately for that situation rather than the one-size-fits-all setback distance? Because it is quite different when you're looking at road frontage. Yeah, I know, you got the nuisance headaches to deal with, everything else. I'm just asking this question. I don't say that I have an answer, I'm just asking.
Along those lines, why are we talking about 100 and 200 from the line of the road instead of 200 and 300? Because what we do is we limit, by allowing that, we limit what can happen across the road. I don't know, maybe it's not at all. But how did we come up with go from 100 to 200 out of that discussion?
Oh, that one's easy. The 100 to 200 off the road is strictly an access issue, a safety issue, getting trucks off. The 100 feet from the road is just too tight. Like, that was really more, it was kind of a concession. You know, we were already thinking about the 200 feet, and if we have the 400-foot setback, the 200 is a nice, it's half. So they at least bought half the setback. Like that, it was kind of a double-edged sword. If you take away that whole reciprocal concept, if we're not having this discussion, my belief from the committee, and y'all can shake your heads yes or no, was that the 200 feet would stay no matter what because of road and access, ingress, egress issues.
You bring 48-foot trailer in with a 22-foot tractor on there, and say you're at 66 feet long, and you go into a 100-foot from a 18-foot, a wide road into that, and then you're making the turns in there, and then you're coming back out of it. I mean, it really is a tight, not saying it can't be done, because they've said 100 feet they can do it, and they do it, but it is just not the one from with a turnaround, and another thing as far as the distance from the road for the road travel past the barns. Because there's a lot of feed activity, there's a lot of things that happen in front of the barns, being open, as far as movement and stuff like that. To me, the 100 feet puts all those activities way too close to that road. And I say that as being a lifetime.
The only completely non-emotional argument that I can make, and emotional isn't right, the only completely non-taking aside argument that I can make about making a separate clause for across the road is that everything we've done so far, you can go to the county and we will have this map that is the official zoning map that Travis can say, where is it going? It's going right here in the edge of this woods, and he can go, yep, you make it, or no, you don't. And if you make it special off a road frontage, you can't make a map that looks that way. So then it becomes more labor intensive to enact it, to enforce it. That is a completely, doesn't have anything to do with what's right or wrong, but it just makes it harder to do. So that's my...
And there's nothing to say that they can't come to be built closer to that, knowing that that setback is in there, they can be approved.
They're not guaranteed.
They're not guaranteed, but they do have that option to come and get the variance. there anything else before I start from the plan commission? Anything else more to be addressed? Carrie,
No, I
John, Danielle, I know you're taking all this in.
I guess I do have one, it's literally past
Alright.
it. Do you want me to make a mock-up language of that separate clause?
No.
I think it becomes.
I agree the concept is good, but I'm not sure in practice how it.
What I'd like to see in direction for you, as much as possible, is for the next time, we're to take our language and work with, have another draft, you know, with new language and stuff like in that, and then have us for the plan commission to see that prior in
Okay.
there so we can have it digested in there, and then we'll address this reciprocal issue at our next meeting in August.
Have we set a land use committee meeting date?
We set, I'll put your recording with that.
Oh, so I'm watching.
We had said, this one, but we have not set the next one, right?
Our next plan commission meeting is on August the 6th.
Can we, have a committee meeting, in that week of the 16th through the 20th?
Of July.
Prior to the third.
That's fine with me.
It works for me.
Okay, so do you want, can we do Tuesday, Mondays, or it's just easier for me to get down here on Tuesday,
And
Monday?
meet out at the extension office in a little room like we've been a meeting. Then you can check for sure, but I think, as Pam talked about, I think that's fine. Last time I checked, but I may be wrong now, they may have something booked for now. That was 2 weeks ago when I checked,
Extension on the 17th.
17th.
7,
So,
and what I'll try to do, is as quickly as possible, make these changes and get them emailed so that, do you want, my intention was to email the changes tonight to the land use committee, have a meeting on the 17th, make the changes again, and mail the second change to everyone.
I think that'd be fine.
and still close. You want to call her, Daniel? They're still there, there's voice meeting out there tonight. And she should still be there at 8.
Okay, we'll try to do that, see if that works.
You got that little side door right there. You got that side door.
So our next plan commission meeting is August the 6th. And then, okay, now, I'll go to the crowd. Do you want to speak to the plan commission?
Yes, I was just reading a book of my father has a PhD in English at the University of Chicago, and he made this statement. He mentioned that the levelers are the foes of freedom. Quite a statement. And he said that sometimes we emphasize freedom. But he said really what we need to emphasize is justice, mercy, and truth. And where you have justice, there's a possibility of freedom. And mercy, we all need it at times. Someone said we need mercy. Yes, that mercy is getting what we is not getting what we deserve. And grace is getting what we don't deserve. And I need both at times. And then when it comes to truth, and my concern is about the property owner. I would say that the interest of the property owner may should take precedence over a map, because there again, if the map is more important than individual instance, the individual instance,
You were so nervous.
I like what Jamie talked about looking at the individual instance. And unless we look at the individual instance, then how can we have justice? Because the variables may vary. And it's something to think about, isn't it? And I would pursue justice and mercy and truth, and I'd like to follow truth wherever it leads. I encourage all of us to do that. Because the trend, of course, and on my farm place, home place, my sister had, there was she had about 5 acres or so, 7 acres to one child and 5 to another. She has another field, 19 acres. And her taxes just on that home, on that place, I think she's for $45,000. She had hoped to have our home place and keep it. But now, if she tried to develop, she would have to have this cluster stuff that we talk about, which is part of the program that I've been trying to talk about for a long time.
1 more minute.
Pardon?
1 more minute.
Oh, thank you. And so there's a trend to get people out of the rural areas and get them in. This is all part of the United Nations program of sustainable development. And their global to local program, and maybe you're familiar with ICLEI, maybe your organization is a member of that, I'm not sure. Okay. And there are other organizations but I would, what would they say, to have justice and mercy and truth, we need to have that. And I don't think we can have justice unless we deal with the individual level. And as the one fellow said, he said, and if we, the levelers are the foes of freedom. And I would encourage us to follow truth wherever it leads.
All right, thank you, Ron. That was Ron King. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Travis?
I'm good.
Max?
Nope.
Rhonda?
I'm going to be working with the commissioners, went ahead and passed that I would go ahead and work and develop a Google Apps for the county with calendars and all of that kind of good stuff. So I haven't had a chance yet. Business like doubled last week, and so I've been struggling to try and catch up myself. So digging in my heels and trying to get it to work. So within the next 3 weeks, I'll go ahead and get something together so that you guys can see it and see if it can work. The Google application with the calendar, asset management, like for rooms and stuff like that, just the whole shebang, and see if it can work. Okay? So, but it's going to take me a little bit.
Were you going to use Commissioner Fultz as a primary contact?
I think that was a little jest, Ron.
I know, I'm aware of this. See, you know, when I said, oh no, it's not going to take any time at all, Tom. No, I'll just be in there every day for a half hour, okay? Is that all right, Tom? Is that all right? Yeah.
Are they trying to say that John is the IT person for the commissioners?
You know, sometimes. Sometimes.
Did they work?
She said that the big room, I guess that's the meeting room, is available, but the small one is.
That's right. That way, small one, always
Okay.
It's all we need.